What's going on, everyone? It's Winslow. Back with another video. This one I want to talk about like automation and having more like dynamic or lively mixes. So to me, one of the biggest kind of things I think it's useful for is also one of the simplest things, and that's just volume automation. You know, like making things louder, things quieter. You know, it seems simple enough, but like you don't really think of it a lot of times in like the context of like dance music, drum and bass, electronic stuff, you know? But there's a lot of things you can do that will help your mixing if you use volume automation. Like
consider the phone.
Orchestras, bands, things like that. You know, if you look at a piece of sheet music, usually has dynamics, you know, forte, piano, then you have transitions between dynamics. You know, I keep saying, you know, like who am I? But transitions like between dynamics, so crescendo, decrescendo, getting louder over time, getting quieter over time. We can do that same thing in our production to make things feel a bit more lively instead of like a stagnant, this is the volume, this is where it is a whole song. Some things deserve that. Your drum, your bass line is usually like that, maybe like a main sample or something. But if you have a more full-on arrangement, or maybe you have, you know, vocals in there, you might want to play with volume automation, just find a bit of balance. A couple more examples would be usually like opening, closing filters, turning on, off plugins. That's something I do. Like I like automating bypass and things like that for certain things, you know, have a couple sends that are automated for volume and things like that. It really is, for at least for the sake of this video, it's like automation in terms of mixing and arrangement. We can talk about sound design automation later. If you're interested in that, let me know, you know, down there in those comments. But anyway, into the project. So this is that remix I was and have been working on. I have like one edit to make and I get to ship it off. Here's, you know, bass project, right? Then hit my little shortcut. Here's all the automation, all these little lines. And it might seem like a lot's going on. Not really. A lot of them are just doing the same things. A lot of them are copying other tracks. Cause like if you know, you might want things to move together in a similar kind of way. So kind of how I was talking about, yeah, volume automation, which I'm looking for one. Here's one. Super basic, like volume automation, not even trick, it's just a thing, you know? You got a break. And now the break's getting quieter. And it's also filtering down, okay? If I were to relate that to, you know, sheet music or instrumental terms, you know, a little decrescendo. You're going from wherever you were to quieter. And it's also a timbral change because I'm starting to filter off the top. I'm kind of fading it out, making it kind of disappear. And what also is happening at the same time, thinking about your instrumentation, your arrangement, I have another drum loop coming in because this is kind of like a section change. So I have one thing fading out, I have one thing fading in. Let's check it. Same, they're just doing the opposite. One's filtering and opening, one's closing. Now, without automation, it more or less would have been like drum loops right there, this thing's right there, butting heads until one disappears. But because of automation, you have like one going down, one coming up. There's not a whole lot of clashing that's going on because they never have enough time to kind of even out and, you know, seem like they're on top of each other instead of exchanging, you know, the space. Does this make any sense? Or is this something like, duh, we know this, Winslow, like, what are you saying? But again, like, you know me, I'm not going to talk about the obvious thing. It's about the details because that's what adds shape to our production. Like the big ideas, like I've talked about this. I say we, but like this is kind of a singular, like I make videos and you probably talk to yourself about like what I'm rambling about, but you know, or, you know, if we know each other, we have conversations, but like, yeah, big ideas are easy, but it's the details that make the difference between like someone still learning and like Alex Perez. I'm not Alex Perez, but like you can hear all this kind of stuff in his music. Another volume thing, like I like fading out bass at the end of phrases. It's not crazy, right? It's just, you know. But remember like what I was talking about, like we have a transitionary part. So if I'm fading out bass and I'm fading out that drum loop, the drum and bass drum loop, because the halftime drum loop is coming in, it makes the transition between these two sections less abrupt and more like a concerted effort. Like, oh yeah, they're meaning to do this. Like they're fading out, we're moving to a new thing, arrangement, composition. stuff like that. Keyword, just yelling out the words. Anyway, like I'll play it real quick without the vocals because there's some stuff with the vocals happening too. There's just a lot of things. It's that's what I mean about being alive. Like things are moving and nothing's really just stuck in its place. Bass fades out, chords come in, break comes in. So it's more dynamic instead of bam, you know? And sometimes you want, you know, just abrupt, immediate. But in this case, it's like, it's fading in because that's mostly how I want it. Like, it's not a right or wrong thing. I guess that's what I'm saying with like, it's how I want it. It's like, it's not a right or wrong thing. It is just smooth. That's like, I don't want to say that's it, but like you can apply this to kind of anything, any sound. Again, this isn't about necessarily sound design. This is mixing and arranging. This is how instruments and groups react to each other and play with each other within the same space to just have like, you know, the desired effect. In here, like I have vocals running, right? So let's see what happens. I'll make it obvious for a second. But I'll have the vocals running in one full-on section, and then when the vocal, like the verse comes in, let's see if we hear what happens or what should happen. I hope I did it right. Pretty full-on, right? Vocal, you hear the vocal, but
I guess I'm in the league of songs, right with the fact. Smacked it out my first time at bat, gone. Every time you hear track on tracks, songs, trying to stack them like racks on racks, wrong. When I get time, we could jab on that, but back to it. Powered by so.
Okay, so I like that delay. So what happened is another like transitionary thing. The main sample riff, like the chops were like pretty loud in your face, right? And then when it transitioned to this bar 81, when the verse, like track's verse kicks in, you can see through with automation and you can hear that the sample's still there, but it backs off and it's also obscured by like a low pass filter. All things that have to be automated. At the same time, you have these, and that wasn't the chord, but these chords like coming in, fading in, but then they also kind of drop back. So it's like I'm introducing the thing and then I'm kind of taking away and obscuring it to serve a different purpose. Like here, it's like, it's open, it's bright, we're going to a new area. Now we're coming back and hiding to make space for the vocal. And it's kind of like a harmonic bed as well. You still get the desired effect of, you know, the nice chord, the samples hidden in there too. The delay softens the abruptness, even though it wasn't abrupt at all. Like it still kind of ties one section to the other when it's like dum, 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 and it fades into that, you know, blurriness of the pad. And then the vocals there.
It reaches over across to proceed in the speech.
And see if you hear this next thing.
Going out to each and all. For each flex, you see, this isn't vet. Now it's talking bold and brass like I came out of hollow cells. Black leather, I swear.
Yeah. So here's another thing being automated. So visually, it's just a volume automation, right? But this is a delay bus that's specifically for this section. So we go from this kind of dry, reverby sound, or dry meaning no delay, it was still reverb on it. I like left it in the stem.
It reaches over across to proceed in the speech that speaks cause going out to each and all. For each flex, you see, this isn't vet. Now it's talking bold.
Now we have the slapback delay in the like halftime section, which adds, you know, a different air, a different feeling. It's like kind of megaphone effect of like the 90s and stuff, you know, but blended with the upfront and rich vocal. So it adds a bit of space. It adds a bit of dimension. It's an obvious difference from that to
black leather, I swag, clever, whatever. It's 20.
It adds more space. It's just like I did the same thing, which I like took the preset and stuff from in Thinking of You. So like the halftime intro and Thinking of You had the same like kind of slapback, delay, reverb kind of deal on it to make it feel bigger and more in your face. And then it left as soon as like the drum and bass stuff kicked in. You know, you really want the clarity and the punch and kind of the directness of the sound. But anyway, it's not necessarily one thing that's going to make a huge dynamic shift. It's a bunch of different things working together. So again, this is this whole section where my like the drum and bass, more or less, like the breaks are fading out and the halftime stuff is fading in, but it's doing so in a way that introduces a new section and kind of a new feel, more or less the same tempo, but we're going halftime. So, you know, you can argue about that. But it's a big textural color style change that can only really happen effectively through this kind of automation and things working together and, you know, living and breathing together. So if I go through here, let's see how things change and how they feel. Because again, like things should feel a certain way. You get louder, things feel more intense. You get quieter, things feel more intimate. But you can play in a certain way where quiet things feel exciting and feel intense, and loud things can feel smooth and lyrical. And all this stuff kind of applies to this, you know, but you got to think contextually, okay?
Powered by solar to give the sonar. Driven more with soul balls. Thoughts don't leave sober, so sauce. It reaches over across. Two perceiving a speech that speaks cause. Going out to each and all. For each flex, you see, this isn't vet. Now it's talking bold and brass like I came out of Hollis Gazelles. Black leather, I swag, clever, whatever. It's 20 something, they still can't get it together while I'm crossing my ivory.
Sounds a bit bigger, hip-hoppy, you know? And now we're going back the other way.
I guess I'm in a league of my own, steady running it.
So like one of the most frequent kind of questions I usually get, like, okay, here's this thing no one ever talks about. Transitions. Like, you know, you have like the obvious, like, have a riser, have a reverse cymbal, stuff like that kind of marks time and marks a transition. And all that's there, like down here, all this blue stuff. But transitionary things are also happening within the arrangement, within the instrument parts themselves, individually and as groups, not like buses, but just like the hip hop stuff fades in, the drum and bass stuff fades out, you know, things like that. That's a big way to make like coherent transitions that, short answer, makes sense, long answer, work together in a way that's musically pleasing. And again, you can just have like abrupt, like, here we are, now here we are. That works sometimes. Like anything can kind of work, again, if you introduce it the right way. For a while, it was just like, all right, how do I get from, you know, 174, I slowed it down, it's 172 now, to halftime, 87, 81. But in like a way that makes sense, that isn't just like, here we are. Because not only in this case am I changing, you know, the tempo going from in time to halftime, double time, whatever you want to say, I'm also changing like the feel, like the swing changes. Like we're going from 16th note swing at 70, at 174, whatever, to, you know, 8th note swing at half of that. And all the feel like changes. But because one thing goes away and another thing is introduced in a certain way, you don't feel like, all right, now I'm feeling like disjointed. It's not like you're like this and it's like, oh, now I gotta, I'm trying to find the beat again. It's like, no, like one kind of disappears and one fades in, and it's smooth enough that you just like, you feel like it's intentional. Like, oh, okay, now we're going here and I'm feeling it. And you gave me enough time and you introduced this new feel to me, so it's not weird, you know? So apply this to anything. It's a really powerful tool, automation, for the music, like writing process, for the arranging, for making things, transitions, making intros, making outros, building things up, breaking things back down, introducing new instruments or ideas, taking them away. There's a lot of things you can do. And even though it seems very simple to just, you know, turn it down, turn it up. Again, like it's the way you do these things that add a lot more depth and interest and attention to detail that the average person may not pay attention to, but they will feel and they will hear it. and it will contribute to the overall like feeling of the song. I know I have my like tendency to talk about stuff and like this very like, oh, I'm so heady about it. And I'm up here. It's like, nah, it's just like, it's music. And this stuff is like, it's proven to work, you know? And all music, like writing music and music theory and all that shit, all it is about making the sound musically pleasing. And pleasing is subjective, but usually around the same principles of, do you like it or do you not like it? In this case,
I like it.
I don't know. I'm kind of rambling, but I feel like you get the idea. Try it out. Let me know how you get on. Is this something you just, yeah, I obviously knew this. Or is this like, oh, I never thought about it that way? Let me know. Anyway, I've been Winslow, and I'm keep being me, and I'm going to leave now and make another video. Hopefully it's a bit more coherent than this one.
Steady running it.
I think I have my own.